Live. Trina Limpert, thank you so much for
You're
being here.
welcome. I'm so
I, I,
glad.
ver- I appreciate it. I'm sure that most people here on LinkedIn, where we're doing this, are going to know who you are. You need no introduction. I am so thrilled to have you. Trina, you wear so many hats. You do so many cool things. I would love, again, for those that, have been under a rock on LinkedIn these days, that don't know, I'd love for you just to give a very brief background of who you are and what you're doing these days. And I'm going to go make sure that we're where we need to be.
Awesome.
And I'll be right back.
All right. So I'll kick off on a short history here of Trina 101, I guess, is the way we'll do it. So I get asked a lot on how did I get into tech, women in tech, all of the work I do. And I kind of joke, but this is serious. Like how I got started is I wrecked my light blue Chevy Malibu Classic into a parked car when I was 18. And due to that and a few other infractions at the time, we don't need to go into detail there, but I ended up riding my little brother's bike to this fast food restaurant called Vittles. I think most people know of it like Arctic Circle now. And I'm sliding around on these greasy floors and arguing with my coworkers on whose burger orders who. And I just had this like come to realization moment of like, I can't live this life anymore, right? Like this is not going to happen. I can't do this anymore. So, I started saving my Vittles dollars and I got into my first semester. I knew an education was my way in. And so I started out in architectural engineering. I always loved drafting and design and some of these areas. And one of the classes that I took was a Pascal programming class. So I'm dating myself. This was back in 1994. So, I just fell in love with computer science. And, back then it wasn't high tech or tech, it was computer science. It was the hardcore stuff. And I just switched my degree. I ended up getting a job at Hill Air Force Base, worked graveyards. So I worked full time and went to school full time, my full career, and started this journey that took me into an amazing career in technology for the last 30 years. So did a computer science degree, got into I loved business. I love solving problems. I love solving business problems with technology. And so designed systems for eBay and sold systems at Oracle and, ran tech ops and DevOps and resource management and all these different aspects throughout my career in primarily customer experience systems, sales systems, marketing, partner management, just all these various aspects. And the whole time I was in this career, I kept going, where are all the women, right? Like, why am I the only one that's in the room? Or why am I the only one in my classes? So I actually wrote my thesis paper back in 96 on why women should go into computer science. So this has been like a lifelong part of who I am and realization of the challenges that are there for women in the workforce and women in their careers. And why don't we see the same representation? What are those challenges? And just went on this, side learning parallel to my career of really understanding what some of those are. Led me into becoming the global president of Women in IT at eBay and oversaw, our largest ERG. It was 1,500 members in 17 countries and learned how to really create large scale change throughout an organization and how to develop change management projects and cultural design and strategy. And so I kind of led me, kind of long story short, I started getting asked to do strategy and ERG strategy and diversity and inclusion and culture and leadership, on the side. And at the same time, I had started what is now Tech Moms, kind of as a side hustle. So Rise Next, my consulting, actually, we had started to put this program together because I was having women literally show up on my front door and saying, Trina, I want to work. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get in. And at the same time, I'm, overseeing technical teams and I'm having to hire people off visas because we can't find enough talent here. And I'm like, there is a disconnect between what is happening in our industry, and we can't find enough people, yet I have people knock on my door saying, let me in. What is happening? Like, this is not okay. And really was what initiated us starting Tech Moms and the work that we're doing now. And now almost 400 women having gone through the program. So pretty incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. And thank you so much for that. And, you know, in addition to running two successful companies, well, I should say one nonprofit, right? Nonprofit of the year for 2022, if I do I have that right?
Yeah, nonprofit of the year. Yep, by the Salt Lake Chamber. That was exciting.
Indeed, indeed. So that's Tech Moms, and then of course your consulting firm. But you've also managed to find some time to write a book,
Yeah,
and that book's all about life work harmony. So I have to plug that for you. I know
that's
it's
sweet.
it's on Amazon and Kindle form
Kindle
today.
now. Yeah. In fact, tomorrow I'm doing a free Kindle download day. So
Cool.
if you want to get it and you want to get it for free tomorrow, I was doing a launch with Fox News and stuff like that. So we've got a free day tomorrow. Download it, share it with your friends, let them know. We're just trying to get the word out. So this is great timing for us getting this launched. And then the paperback will be available by the end of the month. It's currently in proofing and we're getting that out the door and will be generally available here by next month. So a lot of exciting work, but had to find a lot of harmony myself as I was seeking to write a book on harmony. I had to use a lot of the things I wrote about as I went through this process. So it's been a great journey. Learned a lot throughout it.
No doubt, no doubt. And yeah, you mentioned I thought, is this an exclusive that you heard it here first, folks? Like Scotty John's LinkedIn Live, but you've obviously been on the news talking about that. For everybody who is watching, please, you will be able to download this book tomorrow, correct, on Amazon in Audible
Get
form
it
for free.
today if you want to throw some bucks out there, but tomorrow's free. Yeah.
Excellent. Very cool. Yeah, I do. I have pre-ordered the paperback. I'm still a little old school when it comes to books,
I
but
am
I've ordered a couple
too.
of copies, one for
Yeah,
me
it's
and my
really
wife.
interesting because it's almost like a third want Kindle, a third want Audible, and a third want paperback. Like everybody, so we're going to be doing all of those. I'm recording the Audible at the end of the month as well. So
Nice. Are you going to do it
we're putting it
yourself?
out. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I ended up creating Rise Next as a publisher. I self-published my book. So, having gone through this, I learned a ton. So now I'm like, I have a pipeline of books that I want to create. Now I'm going to publish them myself. And I've been talking to other people about publishing their work as well. So
Very
it's
cool.
been a fun experience to go through and learn this world.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I again appreciate that. Can't wait to read it. And thanks so much for the background. There's so much you've done, and you're just getting started, from what I can tell, Trina. So I do want to jump into just a handful of questions that I have for you today. As we talked about when we met and kind of discussed you coming on, the purpose of this is to just add some value to the community, particularly the technology community, and obviously, for everyone, but particularly when it comes to you coming on, I think our women, our female audience is going to really appreciate everything you have to say today. So I'll jump right in and basically, again, talking a little bit about the book and the life work harmony.
Mhm.
How do you prioritize and kind of balance the demand on your time, especially with so much of what you're doing?
Yeah, and this is a key aspect of what I write in my book is it's very much a journaling experience. I call it, that's why it's called orchestrating life work harmony, as I have moments to stop and tune in to yourself. Like, am I feeling okay? Am I mentally and physically doing okay? Like harmony starts kind of on the inside, right? And so taking time to tune in and going, am I burned out? What am I feeling? Tying into some of those things like throughout each chapter, I have these tune in moments and question series and space to journal and really reflect on yourself. And one of the first things that we do is I use this model that I learned with an organization called the Global Hunger Project, where they have, they work with large scale communities to create self-reliance. So they're working to end global poverty and hunger.
Wow.
And that, when I started working with them in 2016, we did a trip to Senegal, Africa, and it really clicked for me that we need to have our own personal vision, commitment, and action plans. And when you don't have that, you just end up scattered, right? Like I am, I talk a lot in the book about goats. I tell goat stories. Like if I even I've made up these little cute stuffed animal goats that I'll send you one, Scotty.
Awesome.
So, it's trying to keep out the goats that consume and invite in the gardeners that bloom, right? And do we let other people consume us with their priorities, or do we have our own? And sticking to that. And do we know what our life vision is? Do we know what we're going to prioritize? Do we know what our purpose is? And a lot of the women I work with, I have to explain, your purpose in life is not to be a parent. That's not a life purpose. That is a role, and it's a place that brings us joy, and it's important in our lives, but it's not your full purpose in life, because then you don't have that. There's a broader sense of fulfillment, right? That we need to find what that is for each one of us. And it's everybody's different, but really getting clear on your vision and purpose allows you to know what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to. And without that, you're just kind of like getting the goats of distraction, right? Is what I call them. They just pull you every which way. You're lost. And so what I do to kind of answer your question, every day I'm looking at my schedule and going, do I have enough time to be able to get to the gym? Do I have enough time with my kids and family? What do I need to prioritize? And within the book, I have this model where you can sit down and just on a piece of paper, you draw a big X and you put your relationships, your finances, your work and community, and your personal development. Where are you going to invest time? And you can do this daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Like, what's the vision in each of these areas? What am I going to bloom and grow? And what am I going to keep out? And you've got to go through that deciphering continually.
It sounds like a practical guide effectively, right? So, or essentially, so the book itself, you've actually got these diagrams and places where you can journal yourself.
Yeah.
And I love how you've distilled it down to, you really do have to start with that purpose or vision. That's really cool. I think I definitely don't want to take too much time here, but when it comes to career searching, that's what I often ask people as well is, have you taken the time to really think through what's most important to you in the next job you take? And it's amazing how many people like haven't gotten that basic.
Yeah.
So I love that. There's so much in there that you just shared that's super, applicable immediately. And again, it sounds like there's a lot more in the book. So that's fantastic. Okay, you seem like one of the better networkers that I know. So can you talk a little bit about your strategies, or what strategies you would recommend for other professionals when it comes to professionally networking?
Yeah, you have to do it, first of all.
Yes.
Okay? And this is something we tell our students. We are very particular with our students. And that's why, like last night, we did a Tech Moms meetup. We start bringing in corporate sponsors, corporate partners. We had various organizations and community support organizations there, because it's so important to build that network, and it's part of building your career. Too often we think it's just the skill sets, not realizing that relationship part is really how you build your career. That's just as important, right? Because if nobody knows what you're doing, then you're just going to get stuck. Nobody knows what your vision is, you're going to get stuck. And so this is one other aspect that I do address within the book, is really having conversations. Even let's just say you're in your role at your company. Can you go to your manager and have a career development discussion? And are you leading out on that? It's not your manager's responsibility. Their responsibility is to create the pipelines and provide the opportunities, but you need to come in with what that vision is and be clear on it. And so having those conversations, whether it's with your manager or if you're seeking a job, getting out into groups that are in the same role, connecting with people, informational interviews are a wonderful way to network. It doesn't always have to be a networking event. You can just find somebody on LinkedIn that's in the job you want to be in, and just start saying, hey, I'm looking to get in this job. Can you share more? And just by the fact of you having conversations and letting them know, they can help you, and you're building your network as you do that. So there's a lot of different ways when you say networking, it's not always like I've got to spend all my evenings at networking events because that will burn you out.
Right.
And a lot of times it's not as effective as you would like. So you have to be very intentional on what are you trying to achieve? Am I clear on my message? Who do I need to talk to before you just kind of end up all over the place?
And for all the introverts out there who say, okay, it's easy to say, but it's harder to do. People want to help. I think when you talked about finding people that are in the role that you're interested in and asking them for some advice on how they got there. I mean, most of the time, obviously here on LinkedIn, a lot of us, well, I say us as a recruiter, I kind of live on there, but there are plenty of people who don't pay a ton of attention to their LinkedIn, so that you'll not hear back because they're just not logged in LinkedIn. But most people want to help, right? And they're willing to have those conversations.
I would say it's very rare somebody will say no. Very rare. And if they do, you don't take it personal, right? They're probably just trying to keep out the goats right now and trying to survive, right? So you just have to put yourself out there and being clear. Here's that having that vision and purpose and knowing where you're going allows you to have a lot more confident conversations. Without that, you're kind of like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this. I call it being wishy-washy, right? Like I'm thinking about this or this or this, but how does somebody help you if you're not clear? And so one of the biggest things that we'll do with our students is, by the end of the program, I'm like, you need to commit to one path. And there's power in having that focus and clarity on all of this opportunity we're showing them. They get overwhelmed. They're like, I want to do everything, right? And it's like, pick one, do that one really well, and then commit to it and then shift. So I call it the commit and shift. Like commit to that, go out, learn as much as you can, network, connect with people, figure out what it is, move down that path, and then other opportunities will come up. That's fine. You'll shift later, right? Just commit to one thing and put all of your focus on that. And I had to do that, just even as I wrote this book, there was times where I had to orchestrate my own harmony in, okay, I'm going to pause this book because I need to get tech moms to where it needed to go. And it ended up, nonprofit as the year because we put that dedicated focus there. And then, okay, now I've got the teams behind me. I've got the funding to be able to move it forward. Now I can go back and say, okay, now it's Trina time. Now I'm going to put this book and this brand forward and really push that. And that's been more of a dedicated focus. So that's how I've what's the top priority right now? And it may not be a no, but a not now. And I love that. And that helps.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's unbelievable. And okay, cool. Very cool. Well, similar to, or I should say in the same vein as networking is, mentorship. And again, you've mentored countless women and others too. I feel like, I'm benefiting from, we didn't meet that long ago, but I already count you as a mentor and I'm getting tons out of our relationship. How do you think about mentorship and again, from a practical perspective, how do you recommend people go out and approach prospective mentors?
Yeah, there's two aspects because I think sometimes we confuse mentorship and sponsorship.
Okay.
And there's two separate things here that are both highly critical to your career. Okay. So one is mentors, individuals that are maybe in a role or have background and experience that can explain to you how to navigate within that role and within your career or a specific challenge that you have. And like we were talking about, reaching out and saying, hey, this is a challenge I'm working on, or this is a role I'm trying to get into, whatever that is, be clear. Come with clarity on specifically what you're asking them to help you with, right? Because it gets frustrating as a mentor if they're just kind of like, oh, well, I'm like, hey, I just want to meet with you, but there's no clear agenda. Sure. And I've worked with a lot of organization on mentorship programs, and they often fail because they don't properly prepare the mentee to own the mentorship process. Okay. And it is on the mentee to be able to say, I need to be really clear on my agendas and utilizing the mentor's time effectively so that I get the most out of this, right? That's where I would say the most success is. It's just, what do you want to get from that relationship and being clear on what your goals are with it. The second aspect on sponsorship. So when you're in a company, especially, or as you're getting into a company, finding somebody to be actively vocal on your behalf, right? So we know for a fact that a reason a lot of the women don't get into positions is because they don't have that, excuse me, but bro network.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm just going to be blunt. I can't network my way in if I'm a return to work mom and I've been out of the workforce for a few years, or I've been in a different industry even, and I don't have any network connections to be able to help me get in. There is a huge, that goes back to that networking, being able to create connections within in the specific area you want to be in, so that they can sponsor you and say, hey, you should hire Trina or you should hire Scotty, right? Like, people do that for each other all the time. And if you haven't built that network, it's hard to do that. But even once you get the job, you need to have individuals and leaders within the company sponsoring you as well. So who are those that are of influence within your company that can be a vocal advocate? Because we know how the promotion cycles go. I call them the promotion battles, where the managers will go in and they'll battle for so-and-so to get a promotion. Who's battling on your behalf?
Okay.
Right? Who is it that's speaking up and saying, hey, so and so did this and they did such a great job and we should really highlight them? Like, that's how it happens. And so you've got to know who those people are that are going to be speaking positively in your behalf and building those relationships.
Excellent. That's phenomenal advice. That's all there is to it. So thank you. um, okay. On the note of advice, so if you're starting out as 25-year-old Trina today, what is I want to say one piece, but we don't have to limit it. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self right now?
Yeah, I think speaking up on my own behalf more often. There was a lot of things throughout my career that I just took the hits, and I shouldn't have. One of the biggest things is, sexism is a real thing, very real. And when I would recognize it, I didn't know how to address it or how to respond to it. And so that is something I talk about in the book as well, is like recognizing that we have what I call it pest control, because it's like we all have our life garden, right? And we're blooming and growing and doing things, but some of us have more pests that we have to deal with than others. And so knowing how to speak up and speak up in the right way and not be afraid to, there's a lot of fear in some of that. And I feel like my career was probably limited because I didn't speak up enough. And, I had a lot of people, but I am very vocal. So I did also get the pushback. It's like, Trina's too crisp. She's too aggressive. She's too this. It's all bias, right? So it's like, you got to speak up anyway. Whether people are going to have those stereotypes of how you should be or how you should speak, it doesn't matter. Speak up anyway. And that's what I would tell myself now, was that I need to be my biggest advocate. And then the similar to that is I had read this book called How Women Rise, and it's by this author, Sally Helgeson. She actually endorsed my book. So this is kind of fun. It's full circle
Cool.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had brought her in to speak for us with Marshall Goldsmith. And I'm not sure if you know who he is. He wrote What Got You Here Won't Get You There. You heard of
The name sounds familiar, but that's about it. So I'll have to look it
so
up.
he's kind of like a big executive leadership coach, right?
Sure.
And he realized, so when I was in leadership at eBay, they're like, hey, read this book, it's so great. And I read it and I'm like, like all the guys on the team are like, oh my gosh, this is like the best book ever, I love this. And I'm like, I don't know, nothing against you, Marshall, but what he realized later is he wrote that book with bias because he only interviewed men. And women and men are different, like and we all both have strengths, and the things that they were talking about in that book are my strengths. Like, I don't get angry, I'm actually pretty even kill, I can just move through stuff. Where some of we each have our own strengths, and that's the value of having diversity within your organization, is you're bringing different strengths, but you also have to lead people differently.
Yep.
And so one of the things that they talked about is they rewrote this book now with Sally, is that a lot of times your teams won't share what they're doing. Like we'll just go and work and work and work and assume everybody knows what we're doing, but they don't. And so I went, oh my gosh, nobody knows how freaking awesome I am, right? Because I just go do the work. And so what I started to do, which is this is what I would suggest for everybody to do, have a conversation with your leader and say, I'm going to start sending you status reports. Is it okay to send it weekly or monthly? But I just want to be able to share and make sure that I'm on the right track to the right results. That is really powerful because it's going to get you into promotions and promotion cycles and visibility without just assuming everybody knows what you're doing. So that's the other big one I would share is talk about yourself a lot more.
But and how you just framed it up, I think is great, because if you're giving your leader the tools that they need, and all the results are right here, so when they go to sponsor you and speak on your behalf, it's right there laid out for them, right? So you're making it easy for them.
It easy. Yeah.
That's again very powerful, practical advice. Thank you for that. And I am curious, you mentioned that you would speak on your behalf more, and you again just gave a really powerful tip for one way to do that. But you said having the conversations the right way or something to that. I mean, I'm obviously paraphrasing here, but how to have those conversations is important. So I think, people, you get paid to consult, and this is a little bit of free advice here. We can't get into too much detail, but any specific tips around how those conversations should sound or how you can approach those?
Be very results focused. This goes for those that are managers and individual contributors. Know what your company goals are and how your role is contributing to value for the company. If you don't know that, find out, because it helps in those conversations as you talk about your career development, you talk about your performance, you talk about these conversations on what you want to do in your career, and then how it could be viable for the company and benefit to the company. Let's say, hey, I really want to skill up in AI. I think this could be really great for the company in this area, and what opportunities could be there, right? So that, first of all, it's informing your manager that you're driven and you want to learn and you want to scale and you want to grow, but also giving you those stretch assignments to learn. And so understanding how you're driving revenue for the company is like your number one thing, is like, how does my job contribute to the overall success for the company? If you can't connect those dots, those conversations are going to be really challenging. So that would be the first thing I would say, is be clear on that. And if you're not, then have the conversation so that you can be.
That's great. It is, I mean, again, in my world, talking about what a good resume looks like, and that's so highly subjective. But one thing that seems universal is exactly what you just said. How are you either making or saving the company money and or contributing to their goals? That's, what good looks like when it comes to how to market yourself. And so, yeah, it makes perfect sense that's how you want to frame up those conversations as well. Very cool. Okay. Just one more question. I know you're busy, and I had some technical issues getting us started here. So, I don't know if you have a hard stop soon, Trina, but I just have one more for you here. Okay. I'm going to try not to lead the witness on this one. What technology trends do you see, and or advancements that you think are going to be important to start thinking about as a professional, and how do you recommend those professionals, start learning and or applying that stuff? That was a bad way to put that, but yeah, that's the question.
I totally get it. And I think like the AI buzz is so real and it's so fun. Like this is why I got into tech, is because it's just so dynamic, and every 6 months there's some new thing, then some new, like I can't even tell you how many systems I've learned, built, and designed over the last 30 years. Like it's just been an incredible journey, right? And we're now on that next set of applications across the board. So, one of the things that we're doing right now, which is within Rise Next, I'm partnering with Vibonics. I'm not sure anybody's familiar with Christy Holt and her work here in Utah.
Okay.
But, when it comes to, so I do leadership development, coaching, training, right? And one of the things we've been working on is emotional intelligence. And they actually developed an AI app. So when you speak into it, it's going to tell you what's your emotional state. So let's say I'm going into a meeting. How am I doing right now? Do I need to calm myself down? Do I need to prep for a certain situation? And it just changes, like, and understanding where your teams are at from like an emotional intelligence perspective. And that's an AI driven change in just leadership and coaching. And you just look at all of the different amazing ways that you can leverage AI in so many, it's just pervasive, right? Through everything and anything we're doing right now, and how it's going to scale and optimize so many different businesses. One of those that I've seen a lot is the marketing space being very heavily impacted, right? Where I was talking to my niece, and she works in marketing and content management. She's like, they laid off the whole team. It's all AI driven now, right? So you're having to reinvent your career pretty quickly.
Yes.
You're going to need to, okay, well, I'm no longer writing it, which, it's like, I don't have to come up with it. How do I now go reskill in AI so I can be the one that's driving those systems? And I think that shift, it's like the career transition stuff that we have happening. We're starting to teach AI at Tech Moms this fall. So we were able to, reach out, find all of our AI specialists and bringing them in to talk about these careers and roles. And we're trying to pivot just as fast as we can to keep up with the industry.
Yeah, no doubt. That's really cool. I'll have to look into Vibonics. I mean, what an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Um, and to your point, same thing in this space, right? In the recruitment space, it's everywhere. And so to your point, you just have to learn how to work with it, because it's here. It seems here to stay. So, well, Trina, what didn't I ask? What didn't we cover? There's only so much you can do in a half an hour, but thank you so much. There's a tremendous amount of value packed into this conversation, obviously coming from one side more than another, but anything we didn't cover that you think, you'd like to leave the audience, so to speak, with?
Yeah, like you were saying, I do career consulting and coaching. You can go to my website, trinaceleste.com. We have you can book there. You can also buy my book from there. It'll be generally available in August, and then it's on Amazon right now. Ended up being Amazon bestseller, which is really fun. We're having a lot of fun with this right now.
Cool.
And then, with Tech Moms, if you know someone, whether it's a wife, sister, friend, somebody in your network that could benefit from our programs, we're enrolling for fall right now. And so go to tech-moms.org and want to get involved as well, reach out to me.
Yeah. And I'll put links to everything in the comments. So it'll be easy for people to find those things. Thank you so very much. I guess one last question, selfish question here. Have you actually formalized the career coaching for couples yet? Or is that just an idea that you have?
Yeah. So this came actually from our conversation. So this is a fun way to
Awesome.
wrap up. So there's been, I've been career coaching a couple of gentlemen, and, because I do Tech Moms, I'm always asking, so what about your spouse, right? Like, what about their career? Let's talk about that as well. And so one of the things that I've been doing is now launching so I can do career couples discussion. So it's when you're doing your career planning, it should be both of your careers at the same time. And how do we make this work as a couple? How do we make sure that everything can be addressed within your household, as well as career development should be balanced between the two of you? And for example, my book agent, as I was writing, he was reading my work and he said, oh my gosh, I realized that I was always prioritizing my career over my wife. And one of the things that happened is she was been trying to get her master's degree for years, but he just was like, you know what, do it when you can, whatever. He ended up getting laid off, and she ended up having to work, but she hadn't finished her degree. She kind of held herself back so that he could. And we need to stop doing that and making sure that we're we're creating a balance between like careers and making it work between. And there's a lot of conversations that need to happen to be successful with that. So that's kind of where that generated from. And I appreciate you kind of calling that out.
Yeah, no, it's I can't wait. We're gonna go sign up. So thank you again, Trina Limpert. Really appreciate it for anybody who's here local in Salt Lake City. Trina will be. Are you speaking tomorrow?
I'm not
Event?
speaking, I'm just gonna hang out. I'm just gonna
Perfect.
network,
Well,
right?
blowing up your spot here, Trina. But both Trina and myself, we're both going to be at the Women Technology Council event tomorrow afternoon. So that's at the Overstock building, I think. So anybody who wants to come out, see you out there. Trina, see you there. Thank you so much. It's really a
You're so
pleasure.
welcome.
Appreciate
All
it.
right. Thank you.
Bye bye.